Let's start, though, with the AstraZeneca vaccine. Health Canada looked into rare reports of blood clots in people who received that vaccine. The agency did determine a potential link, but says the benefits outweigh the risks, and that vaccine is safe to use. Dr. Supriya Sharma is the Chief Medical Advisor to Health Canada. She joins us now. Hi, Dr. Sharma. Good to see you as always. Thank you for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Vashti.
What is your primary message to Canadians at this moment on AstraZeneca?
Well, I think you said it, right? So, we are at Health Canada are looking at these rare clotting, these unusual clots with low platelet events. We've taken a look at all the information from Europe, from the UK, from Canada as well. And overall, the benefits outweigh the risks. And what we've been telling Canadians is that they should take the first vaccine that they're offered, but it's also important for Canadians to know why. So we have made some changes to the product monograph. We have put some wording in to talk about this potential very rare risk. We want to talk about why, the other side of the equation, the risk of getting COVID and getting potentially very sick from it or having side effects from that is just as important to consider.
Can you contextualize for us how rare the risk is? So, for example, your risk of taking AstraZeneca and getting this blood clot versus other things that can happen to you in life and getting a blood clot.
Right. So when we look at the data, again, these numbers are very small. So a change of one case here and there sometimes can change the numbers a lot. The best information that we have is actually from the UK because they've administered the most numbers of AstraZeneca vaccine. They have a really good monitoring system for vaccines. They have a very good centralized system. So what we're saying is that the risk of getting this is about 1 in 250,000 or 4 in a million. And I know that's a number. Those are big numbers. It's hard to kind of wrap your head around. And some people have been using, the risks of other types of clots. But I think really the issue is what is your likelihood of having, for example, a serious clot? Not exactly the same one like this for AstraZeneca, but in COVID-19, it's 1 in 5. And what we're really looking at is the balance. So you are far more likely to be in the ICU with COVID-19 than you are to have this type of a very rare event. And that's the balance that we're really looking at.
And on that message then to Canadians that, look, if you're offered a vaccine, you should take it. Do you think it is a bad decision for provinces then to offer up a choice? Like, should it be, here's the vaccine we're targeting to this group and this is what's available to you? Because I think that the choice is where people start getting a bit nervous.
Yeah, I mean, if the choice is available, right? I think we're in a time where we don't have enough vaccines. The demand is higher than the vaccines that we have. But if people have a choice and be able to offer a choice, I think that decision should be made with accurate information. There's a lot of noise out there. So, the question is, are you able to, what kind of risk do you have of potentially getting exposed to COVID-19 and then getting sick from it versus, something that might be a rare event? What's the availability of an alternative needs to be taken into consideration. So all of that's really important. So I think Canadians are smart and they're capable, and if they're provided with the information, then they can make the decision that's best for themselves.
So a few weeks ago, when these concerns were first raised, and Health Canada said, okay, we're going to take a look at some of this data and delve further into it, there was a change in the guidance around who should be actually using getting this vaccine. And that change came from the National Advisory Committee on Immunization. And I just want to delineate from our viewers, they offer guidance on how to use the vaccine. Health Canada and you tell us if it's safe or not to use. I'm wondering, though, from your perspective, I know NACI is expected maybe to update that guidance based on what's happened today. Just from like a layman's perspective and from my perspective, I understand now the delineation between the two. But do you think there could be greater coordination between Health Canada and NACI at this juncture, in this type of emergency situation? Just because you're saying this now, but it's still only recommended for people over the age of 55. Maybe that changes in the next few days, but we don't know. And then provinces are waiting for that. They have to change their guidance as well. Like, could there be more coordination?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can be confusing, right? But it is also important to know that every other country does have two separate organizations that give this type of advice and make these sort of decisions. So there's a Health Canada type organization in all of these different countries that make these regulatory decisions, like can you legally use this vaccine in this country? And there's a group of experts, a body that advises on the optimal use of the vaccines. And those are different choices and those are different decisions. So NACI, for example, will look at the availability of alternatives, that local epidemiology, and offer advice to the provinces and territories, who ultimately will make the decision about whether they take that advice or don't. In terms of coordination, we work very closely with NACI. So our Health Canada officials actually presented all the data that we looked at to NACI yesterday. The review reports that we actually put together at the end of the review, we provided those to NACI yesterday. We sit as an observer on that committee. So there is a lot of coordination with the two groups, but it is still important to know that those are different decisions and different sets of recommendations that are coming based on a different context.
Given the coordination that you just outlined, do you anticipate, though, that guidance, whatever it may be, not to predetermine what it may be, but will be issued sooner rather than later?
Well, NACI has said they did meet yesterday. They are going to meet again tomorrow. And so it really depends on what their deliberations are. I think they do have a view to try to obviously provide an update to the recommendations as soon as possible. So I would expect, either after that meeting or if they need more discussion time. But I think, over the next few days, they will be coming out with their new recommendations.
Okay, Dr. Sharma, two quick questions on other vaccines for you, if you don't mind. Pfizer, we spoke to the vaccine lead for Pfizer a few weeks ago on this program. They had new data that they were going to submit and a request for emergency authorization to Health Canada, he said, around kids, and particularly teenagers, I guess you could say, young kids between the ages of 12 and 15. Has that request been submitted to Health Canada?
It has not yet, so that submission has not come in, but we're expecting it within the next 2 weeks.
And do you have any idea of how long the review process for that would take? Because he said the data set was fairly small and there would be a larger data set in the summer. Do you anticipate you'd have to wait until that data set in the summer before making a final decision?
Well, Vashti, the data will tell us. So It depends. We haven't seen the data yet. We have seen, obviously, the press releases about some of that information, and it does look promising. But, there's some questions. How much follow-up information is there? What kind of the results are? So we really will let the data and the evidence guide those decisions.
And finally, where do things with Novavax stand, the review there?
Yeah, so we're still expecting two sort of chunks of information, two packages of information on Novavax. One is on the manufacturing side of things, so still expecting some of that to come in. We don't have a timeline for that. The biggest piece is really around the clinical trial information from their large phase 3, that final sort of stage trial. And we are expecting that, by the end of April, beginning of May, but it depends on of course, how quickly the company can put that together and provide that to Health Canada.
So it sounds like a couple big chunks of data missing at this point. Any estimate of an overall timeline? I know for other vaccines you've been able to say sometimes when it's like a few weeks away or within a month. Is that hard to do at this point because of that lack of data?
Yeah, I think when we're able to give predictions is once we've at least seen what that data package looks like and we've had a chance to do an initial look, and we haven't had a chance to yet. But as soon as we get it, we'll do that quick look at it and we'll be able to provide at least some ideas of timelines when we get it.
Okay, Dr. Sharma, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it as always.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Dr. Supriya Sharma is the Chief Medical Advisor to Health Canada. Hi, I'm Vashti Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.